Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabi Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Nahmatuhu wa nusalli wa nusallim ala Rasulil Kareem amma ba'd. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hukm min lisani yafqahu qawli. All praise is due to Allah Ta'ala, who has blessed us with the wealth of Iman. Salam to our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Respected ulama, alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala has given us the ability to sit for a while and make fikr and have a worry and a concern of the current condition of our ummah. I think the topic of discussion is a bit dangerous, but alhamdulillah, it's time that we discuss it, because currently I don't think we know what is happening in our community. We don't know what's happening to the ummah as well. We have a scourge. We have an uncontrollable and an unmanageable scourge. A scourge that sees no color, no creed, no race, no religion. It does not see gender. It doesn't differentiate between age groups. It doesn't see the rich or it doesn't see the poor. A lot of people say, or a lot of people tell us, that drug addiction is a disease. Drug addiction is not a disease. Drug addiction is not a disease. A disease is something that is inflicted to a human being by Allah Ta'ala. That means sugar, cancer, kidney, lung problem. Those diseases are diseases that inflicted by to a human by Allah Ta'ala. Doctors can give you comfort, they can't give you cure. The people who got cancer, they do chemotherapy. People who got sugar, they give them insulin. So those people who got HIV/AIDS, they get antiretrovirals. So a disease is something that is inflicted to a human by Allah Ta'ala. Drug addiction is something that is self-inflicted, because Allah Ta'ala has given us three beautiful gifts. One, Iman. Two, Allah has made us Muslims. And three, Allah Ta'ala has made us human beings. Because Allah has made us human beings, Allah Ta'ala has given us a beautiful faculty, that's a brain, to have the ability to distinguish between what is right and wrong. Like I say, they call us human beings. You know, the human part is temporary, the being part is eternal. The human part will disintegrate in the grave, the being part will go to Allah Ta'ala. So that's why we are called human beings. So Allah has given us such a beautiful faculty, so He's given us the ability to distinguish between what is right and wrong. Sometimes I ask a student or I ask a patient that, you know what, you have a brain to do what? They say to think. But you can't think if you never get a thought. You need to get a thought first before you can elaborate on that thought and think about it. That's when you get feelings and emotions. If the feelings and emotions are strong, you'll take the action. With every action is a reaction. With every reaction is a consequence and a repercussion. Consequence is what will happen to me. Repercussion is what will happen to people around me. So we have to understand the severity of this thing. If you look at 95% criminal activity, drug related. 95% child abuse, drug related. 95% divorce cases, drug related. 95% house molestation, child abuse, rape cases, all of them are drug related. The amount of cases we have, I think out of the 60 to 70 patients that I have in Makhalisbag, from there about 50 to 55 of them have been separated from their homes. So we need to understand that it doesn't see, I think I explained it, it doesn't see age group. The youngest child a mother brought to Makhalisbag was 6 years old for crack cocaine. 6 years old. He picked it up from his father. To give an explanation how this thing, I'll just elaborate a little bit, is that the mother has realized that the father, when she leaves him alone at night, he sells everything, he borrows money from the whole locality. So she gave him permission to say that, you know, every night when you come home, once the kids are sleeping, you buy your 2-3, he was a crack user, buy your 2-3 pieces, you use in the house. So the mother allowed him to use, his wife allowed him to use in the lounge. The child, who was 6 years old, used to get up every night and walk to the lounge and see what the father was doing. The father used to have one hit, he goes to the window, he looks outside, he thinks there's a conspiracy outside. So he sits and looks outside for about 2-3 hours. The child used to lift up the pipe and smoke it. It came to a stage that the child got hooked to it, and the mother brought him to Makhalisbag. He was still wearing diapers. We couldn't keep him. The youngest child I kept in Makhalisbag was 7 years old. A 7-year-old boy. We could not send him. The reason we kept him is because we're not allowed to keep children under the age of 18. But the reason we kept him was because his 3 sisters are addicts. His father is an addict. His mother is an addict. So everybody in the home is an addict. So what we had to do, we had to educate this youngster, make him understand the severity of the substance, and put him into an institute where he goes to school in the morning and he goes to madaris and he stays there. So we had to do that. So like I explained, it doesn't see no age group, it doesn't see rich, it doesn't see poor, it affects everything. If you look at drugs in our schools, in our madaris, in our Islamic institute, in our colleges, in our varsities, it is everywhere. And I was explaining yesterday in the masjid, I got a patient in the center, he's 28 para Hafiz in one of the Darul Ulums, okay? They expelled him because they caught him with weed. So I asked him that, brother, how do you smoke in a madrasa? He reckoned to me, I told him, security, what happened? He reckoned I smoke with them. I said, all right. So I said, how many students in your class? He said, 32. I said, how many smoke? He said, 28. So it's everywhere. It's come to a stage that all our madaris in Johannesburg, even our schools in Johannesburg are starting to buy drug tests now. They're putting it in part of the admission criteria to make them sign a consent of indemnity that you are allowed to do tests at any given time. Because it's everywhere. The 7-year-old youngster I was telling you about, Muhammad, such a good boy, he was used by the dealers to supply drugs to the schools. He had about 5 or 6 kids between all of the age of 7. Why? Legally, a cop cannot search a youngster under the age of 7. So you use the 7-year-old kids to supply. And when they're cooking, especially when they're cooking cat or they're cooking crystal meth, they use these kids as guinea pigs, okay, because they test it on them to see how it works and what are the effects and what type of a buzz do they get. So they're giving it to the kids, okay? I'm going to explain, inshallah, it's very important for the ulama to understand, for us, all of us to understand what addiction is. We need to understand what addiction is. The only time we understand what addiction is, we will understand an addict. Otherwise, we'll never understand an addict. There are 3 phases of addiction. Initially, it's a pre-dependency phase. We all know that obsession is psychological. So when a person is obsessed with something, the body becomes physically compulsive. That means if I'm obsessed with chocolates, my body will want to eat it. If I'm obsessed with food, roti or whatever, my body will want to eat it. If I'm obsessed with drugs, my body will want to use it. Because when a person is obsessed with something, the body becomes physically compulsive. So when a person is experimenting with substance, it's in your pre-dependency phase. That means he will try weed, he'll try coke, crack, crystal meth, PCP, angel dust, tari, heroin. He'll try all these different type of drugs. Once he finds a choice of drug, he goes away from pre-dependency, that means from psychological dependency, he goes to a second stage of addiction where he becomes your codependency phase. In your codependency phase, it is psychological and physical. That means the mind will tell you how good it is, the body will tell you how good it feels. When you try to satisfy both, the time you satisfy both, you become dependent. Once you become dependent, you go to a third stage of addiction. Your third stage of addiction is chronic. Once you're in chronic addiction, it's no more psychological, it's physical. The mind don't need it, the body needs it. It's called psychosomatic. That means psychosomatic is when the body tells the mind what to do. That means when you get a craving, the brain shut down. There's no thinking ability. Your body demands what it demands. That means you have to food. Is that person who got sugar, He can eat one big cream cake now. His sugar can rise to 15, 16, 17. Let him take insulin, he's back to normal. Similarly with the addict. When he gets a craving, he needs to fulfill the need. Otherwise, he'll do anything. To give an example, I had a patient who slept with his mother, she gave birth. I had a patient who's raping his sister from the age of 7, she's 13. I remember I was giving a program, one of the masjids, and after the program, they had a ladies program separately. She came with some of her friends to come and talk to me. I told them, you know what, it's very difficult for me to talk to you now. I have to travel very far to Makhalisbag. But I'll talk to you something. So her friend started crying, telling me, please uncle, talk to her. So I spoke to her for about 5 minutes. She told me her situation. I also had doubt. You know what, something like this cannot happen. But I gave her my card. She started emailing me. She said, every day my brother comes home by 10, 11 o'clock. After he drugs high, he comes to my room, he raped me. When I told my parents, my mother told me, Gandhi che, jinnat baralo che. It can't happen to you. Your brother won't do something like that. But because of a persistency and a consistency of emailing me, we thought we'll investigate. When we got hold of him and we brought him to Makhalisbag, and sitting down with him, once his mind was sober, he started doing his counseling with the psychologists and the social workers, he opened up. He's raping her for 7 years. Your own sister in your own home. Understand? We got guys, I had a guy that he's an accountant, his wife is 19, he's 23. He put her on crack. When the drugs got finished, he pawns his wife to the Nigerian for 1 hour to come back with 2 pieces. So we need to understand the severity of what levels an addict will go to get his drug. He'll do anything. At a time when he's drugging, he forgets his mother, he forgets his father, he forgets his wife, he forgets his children, they forget everything. Because why? I'll tell you why they forget children. We had patients that in certain areas, that if your child is under the age of 3, and if your drugs are finished, you leave your child by the merchant overnight for 300 rand. You collect your child the next morning. If you don't pay, they will keep your child there till the time you pay. So it's come to that level. So we need to understand the severity of the addiction and the severity of the ummah. Also, what we need to understand also as ulama, a lot of times children do not have the ability to sit and discuss anything with their parents. Why? They are fearful. But we have to have such a relationship with our children. We need to be totally open with them on a daily basis, consistently. Speak to them, talk to them, ask them how was the day, ask them what happened. I had a patient who came to me, he was molested at the age of 11 by his ustad, at the age of 11. When we spoke to him, he reckoned the reason, when he spoke to his parents, they said, "Apnu naam bagri jaye, we cannot take it further." Today he's 39 years old, 39 to 40 years old. Because nothing was done about it, every month when he come to Joburg, come and do his buying for his business, he goes to a gay club and sleeps with a man, up to today. Why? Nothing was done about it. Nobody helped him with it. We had another situation where we had a girl we were counseling. We don't keep girls in Magaliesburg, but sometimes if it was severe, they want to get some counseling done, we'll allow them to come there as outpatient, come for the day, we'll do their counseling. This girl was raped by her mother's boyfriend when she was 12. Understand? 12. Father was gone on Jamaat. Mother's boyfriend raped her. She was 12 years old. The father brought her to Magaliesburg when he came back. When he brought her to Magaliesburg, we were sitting down and talking to her. The father told her to take her top off. She took her top off. When she took her top off, she had cuts from here right to her ankle. So I asked her, why are you cutting yourself? She says, because every time I see my mother, if she walks into my room, I cut myself. Why? Is because when this thing was happening, she told me, Ben is okay, don't worry about it. Understand? So what she does is she creates physical pain to suppress emotional pain. She creates physical pain to suppress the emotional pain. Why? She has no one to talk to. So it's very important on a daily basis. We need to sit with our children, talk to our children, educate our children about anything. They must be able to talk about drugs. They must be able to talk about girls, boys, whatever it is. At least we can give them the advice, knowing it's wrong, rather give them the advice. Or otherwise, if we don't sit and talk to them, they will go outside and meet the wrong people and talk with the wrong people. There are 6 categories of drugs. One is your weed. A lot of people say that, you know what, a lot of people say that, you know, my son or my daughter only use weed. Okay? You get about 10, 15 different types of weed. You get majat, you get skunk, you get cheese, you get purple haze, you get indoor, you get outdoor, you get Malawi, you get Swazi. You get enough types of weed. Okay? The main weed that currently the guys are using is cheese, and they're using indoor. Indoor are treated in rooms like this where they have cubicles where they put the weed inside, they spray it with liquid acid, becomes hallucinogenic, and they got UV light to soak it in. That's why they call it indoor. Okay? It's very, very, very strong weed. Because this type of weed, a person, like they say, I'm not justifying, but a person rather smoke cocaine or snuff cocaine than smoking that weed. Because why? It will damage your dopamines in the brain. So after a while you start talking to yourself and you'll hear voices and you'll talk and respond to those voices. I mean, we got plenty of them in the center. You know, we got guys in the center, we got one youngster, he will put every night he'll put a bowl in the middle of his room. We're talking about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. He make himself naked and he'll talk to the bowl. He'll have a full conversation with the bowl. That's what he does. Okay, on a daily basis. I know some patients, as soon as they have one hit, they take their clothes off. They take their clothes off. We got patients that come once in group therapy, they're having a session, they'll ask the facilitator to excuse themselves for about 5 minutes. If you follow them and go to the room, they're talking to someone. But there's nobody in the room. They have a full-blown conversation, they come out and they feel more comfortable and they feel better. Why? Because of what is damaging the brain, what is doing to the brain. So it's become very dangerous, and and weed is a gateway drug. Your second category of drugs is your cocaine. You get your cocaine and you get your crack. Okay? Cocaine is the powder form. When you cook cocaine with speed and bicarb, it comes into a crystal form of crack, and that's why they call it rock. Okay? But that's also according to, if a person uses cocaine, he can snuff 2 lines in the morning, he can snuff 2 lines in the afternoon, he can snuff 2 lines in the evening. But a person who uses crack can't. Because once crack is induced in your system, your body needs it every 15 minutes. Why? Because crack has speed inside. Speed, once it's induced in your system, your body needs it every 15 minutes. So you see people who use crack, they sell everything. They sell their phones, they sell their shoes, they sell their clothing, they sell their cars, they sell everything. Understand? Why? Once induced. But it's according to also how you buy. You can buy it 60-40. That means 60-40 is 60% cocaine, 30% speed, 10% bicarb. You can buy it 70-30 is 70% cocaine, 20% speed, 10% bicarb. Bicarb is just to bind the drug together. Or you can buy it pure at 90-10. That means 90% cocaine, 7% speed, and 3% bicarb. So it's according to what your financial situation is, you can buy accordingly. But it becomes a paranoia drug. That means you start seeing things. Okay, you become totally paranoid with everything around you. So that's our 2 types. Then you have your opiates. Opiates is your OPI. That means your codeine, pethidine, morphine, and heroin. Before we get to the prescription drugs of codeine, we talk about pethidine. Pethidine is used by mostly in our medical sector. We get a lot of doctors, a lot of pharmacists coming in. They come in for pethidine. They're injecting pethidine. Okay, you get a lot of them injected in the shoulder. Then you get your heroin. Heroin can be used in 3 ways. The danger of it is that you cannot smell heroin. Okay, so what happens with heroin is that they can either use it in a cigarette. That means what they do is they take half the cigarette out, they top it up with heroin, they put the balance of the cigarette back inside, and they smoke it. The second way of using it is chasing the dragon. That means with a foil. That means they put it in a foil, they put a heroin on side, they heat below it, they tilt it till it becomes a liquid form into an oil form, and they inhale the smoke. Also hallucinogenic. The third way of using heroin is injecting, is intervening. Initially you start here. Okay. Once these veins are finished, you go to the neck veins. Once these veins are finished, they go to the groin area. Once those veins are finished, before you die, they use the last veins that's in between your toes. But once it comes to a stage where you're using by the groin area, it comes to a stage where once you inject, you don't have the strength to pull it out. And now what they're doing now is come to a stage that a lot of the guys are picking up HIVs because they're Bluetoothing. You know, Bluetoothing, normally you do Bluetoothing with a cell phone. They're Bluetoothing. So what you do is that they're injecting, as they're injecting, they lift up part of the blood. And the guy, your mate sitting next to you, pass it to him and he injects it, the balance of it, and then he throws it inside. Understand? So they call it Bluetoothing. It's happening. Okay, it's happening everywhere. Okay? On the prescription side, we've got a lot of patients coming in for codeine. That means, Stilpain, Adcodol, Miprodol, all these things. We got guys coming in, they pop up to 120 to 130 Stilpains per day. That means they carry it in their pocket. Every 1 hour they throw 10 in their mouth like peanuts. Understand? But it also becomes hallucinogenic. Because why? It comes to a stage that even if they're sitting still and doing nothing, they do this. Even there's nothing in their hands. Why? Because it's become such a habit. Understand? So they're popping up to 120 to 130 per day. So you got your codeine, your pethidine, your morphine, and your heroin. Your other drug is the highest form of a downer is heroin. The highest form of an upper, currently 98% of our patients, 95 to 98% of our patients are on crystal meth. It's a very, very, very dangerous drug. Okay, it is killing families. It is breaking up homes. Guys are hiring, all these PIs to follow their wives. They feel that their wives are having affairs. They don't allow their wives to close the room. You got guys that put their wives into the shower, make a knife go through like this, and this is not your body. All these things are happening to the wives. That's why most of the wives are running away. It is very, very, very dangerous. Crystal meth currently, like I explained, 95% of our patients in Mahalisburg are using crystal meth. There's no control on them. Okay, a lot of them lost their minds. Okay, a lot of them that you have to just leave them. You'll see the guy sitting at night through the room window. They're talking. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to my wife. Where's she? There she outside. Okay, you have to give him the ability to talk because you can't stop him because he will not believe you. He believes what he sees. So crystal meth does that. Okay, but now everybody who uses a stimulant, that means anybody who uses the upper, you're talking about your cat, your crystal meth, and your cocaine, they have to use a downer. They have to balance their heart rate. That means they either use Mandrex, or they either drink alcohol, or they either use benzodiazepines. Okay, you got a lot of people coming into the center now for benzodiazepines, but now you can't get 542s anymore. Why? They've stopped it in the market. Okay, so you can only get it in the black market, but now most of the guys are using something called alprazolam. Okay, it's made by Mylan. It's alprazolam. They come in tubs like this. They're about 60 or 80 rand. but they're losing their minds. Because why? They're popping so much that when they come to the center, some of them every hour, they're getting seizures. Every hour. That means while they're walking, they fall. Either shoulder will pop out, either they'll cut themselves. So you can't even walk around them all the time because you don't know when they're going to fall. You don't know when they're going to get seizures. You don't know when they're going to get blackouts. Okay? So the other category is your benzodiazepines. I want to mention about ket. Ket, the most active ingredient in ket is ephedrine. The most active ingredient in ket is ephedrine. Ephedrine is used in slimming capsules, in BioSlim and all that. So when a person uses BioSlim, it will take them 6 months to a year to use 5 kilos. Why is it that 80 to 90% of the girls are hooked onto ket? Is because if you use ket, you lose your weight within a 3-week period. Why? Because besides the only active ingredient is ephedrine, Balendravir is detergent, sodium dichromate, hydroxide, toluene, acetone, and ley. Now ley is an ingredient. If you look in the back of a drain cleaner, you'll find an ingredient called a ley to burst the drain open. That is why they say a person who uses ket, his thinking ability comes down to a third of his age. We had a youngster came with father of 5 children. He came there to the center and he tells me that, Uncle Rafiq, I say, gee, you reckon my mommy said I must have cereal every morning. Huh? You're looking at an elderly man with 5 children. Okay, so it takes your age. So that is why most of the girls currently are using ket. Okay, now once they lose their weight, they become dependent on it. It's come to a stage now for a girl, it's very easy for her to get a drug because she's a woman. But now, it's no more that. It's come to a stage for a man now also, it's very easy to get his drug. We got guys that come to the center that are male prostitutes. They sell themselves for the drug. They have to, because there's no other way they can get money. So it's come to that stage. So I don't think we, as Muslims, know what is happening in our homes. We don't know what's happening to the community. We don't know what's happening to the community at large. It is so severe in every second home has an addict. And wallahi, if we don't make an effort of trying to curb this problem, the next generation will be a generation of drug addicts. Because it's everywhere. It's in our schools, it's in our madaris. You go anywhere, the kids are drugging. And now they're using vape, man. I'm not justifying to balance it if you buy the disposables, but they're using vape with the liquid called Dutches. Dutches make you crazy, man. It's got THC inside. It's cannabis oil. And they're actually using it into the vapes and they're smoking it. That's making them more crazy. So, currently in the center we're using the easier way out. We can't stop them completely with it. What we're trying to do now is that let them buy, rather if the families they must bring the disposable ones. We're not allowing them to use anyone to fill liquid inside because it can drive you off the wagon. It is very, very, very dangerous. A lot of patients feel, a lot of people think, it's all right, my son is smoking vape, but what vape is he smoking? How much are we checking what they are doing? So I think our message is to see how we can get the ulama involved to help us with this situation. Because today, anybody who's got a problem, anybody got an issue, the first place they go to is the ulama. Now, if the ulama is not educated of understanding the situation, how are we going to help the community? How are we going to help our children? How are we going to help the next generation? We need to get the ulama involved where they can help us help the community. We are a school. When a person comes to a rehab, a lot of people think, a rehab is a factory. You put munts inside here and a samosa come out the other side. It's not going to happen. A rehab is not a factory. Okay? We like a school. All we do is when you come there, we educate you on drugs. We go through the underlying issues because 95% of patients have underlying issues. If you look at it, drug problem is only 5%. 95% is the lifestyle a person lives. 5% is the drug. So if you don't take care of the underlying issues, you'll never stop him from a drug. And every patient that comes in, we have to deal with 2 addictions. That means, a lot of people coming for different addiction. We got guys coming in for drug addiction. We got guys coming in for gambling addiction. We got guys coming in for porn addiction. We got guys coming in for social media addiction. We got guys coming in for sexual addiction. So they're all coming with different addiction. But very important to understand that any addiction a person has. So we don't work on the drug. We work on the addiction part of it. Why? Any addiction a person has, the relating factors are the same. Whatever drug the person is, whatever he's doing, what I mean by the relating factor, the lying, the conning, the manipulation, the irresponsibility, the anger, the aggression, the violence, the abuse, the eating pattern, sleeping pattern, all these things changes because of the addiction. So when a person comes in, we have to work with the addiction and we have to work with his character defects. He's no use working with his addiction and he goes out, his character defects are the same. He's the same person. He still lies, he still cons, he still steals, he still pawns, he does all those things. So you have to work with both. And the time that we have is very limited. We have 6 weeks. If a person comes in on heroin, it takes him at least 10 to 14 days for him to settle down. Because why? The roster is absolutely very severe. Because why? When a person uses heroin, once he stops, the roster kicks in within 12 hours. That means your joints, your body, everything locks. So we have to give them some time. We're trying to wean them off with methadone. We give them methadone for a 5-day period. That means you limit it. You give them 10 mils in the first 2 days, 5 mils the second 2 days, and the last day you give them 1 5 mil. The balance of the 5 days, they will not sleep. They are up 24 hours. Why? Because they have to deal with the roster. If we keep on giving them something to substitute it, then what happens is that if they don't go through the roster, they will not feel the pain. So they have to go through the pain for at least 5 or 6 days and see the core, what damage it's causing. So all these drugs have severe repercussions, severe consequences. We have people who have lost their homes, their families, their wives. I've got so many patients there. The parents said we took an effort to get them into a facility. Please, Rafiq Bhai, when they finish, put them at a gate and tell them to walk. Why? We have peace and sukoon in our home. We don't want to disrupt our homes. I was mentioning to him last night, we had a social worker by the name of Sam Savage. Alhamdulillah, she was a very, she had vast experience, especially in heroin addiction. And I think after about 3 or 4 years working for us, she got a nervous breakdown. So her son and her husband came to us and says that, she won't be coming back to work. And I thought to myself, it's a major loss to us because she was so good at what she does. So once she settled down, she became calm again. She came and apologized at the center, and we were sitting and speaking. So I asked her. I said, Sam, you're a major loss to us. We need you in the facility because you're good at what you do. She said, she used to call me Uncle Rafiq. Uncle Rafiq, I've worked with every religion. The worst are the Muslims. I'm talking from a white lady. She reckoned I've worked with every religion. The worst are the Muslims. Because what I hear of what your Muslim children do and what they do in their drug addiction, even the Christians don't do it. So she actually left the center after that. Because why? She couldn't deal with the situation. So that's how severe the drugs are now. So we need to try and see how we can all get together and see how we can curb this issue. Look, we can't stop the drugs. A lot of people say get rid of the merchants or kill the merchants. We can't do that. It's like they're telling an alcoholic, let's close the bottle stores. We can't do that. We need to educate the community. We need to have outreach programs. We need to have some sort of things where we can set up, a facility where kids can meet on a Friday once a month, where they can have sports facilities there, where they can have, cook a day and let them eat there at night. Have a small program after Isha, have a zikr program after Fajr, have a durood program after that, give them a small talk, let them sleep the nights in the masjid. We tried it before, up to 200 to 300 children used to come. But now we don't have the support to carry on doing it because we're based in Makhalisburg. Now we can't keep on doing it. So we need the ulama to get involved, help out with these things. Because if we don't, wallahi, I'm telling you, I'm telling the ulama here, I'm telling you, we're not going to have normal children walking around. Out of the, I get between 100 to 120 calls per day, every day. From there, 80% is for girls. 80% is for girls. There are times I have to go to Hillbrow, go and fetch a girl. The one girl I went to fetch her, she was 17 years old, man. I walked in there with my kurta in a Nigerian den. I had to walk to the 10th floor, man. I walked up there. She told me, uncle, give me 10 rand and do what you want to do. So I asked the Nigerian, why are you keeping her here? He reckons she owes me 300 rand. So every time, I'm tired of using her. So every time she needs another piece of crack, I call another Nigerian to use her. And he gives the money, and that's how she's paying me. Young girl. I had to put her on my shoulder and carry her and take her back to her house. So that's what's happening in our house. I got another case that we're dealing with. Mother addict. Daughter 13 addict. Daughter 15 addict. The mother, to sustain a habit, and the 2 daughters are on drug addiction, she made her 2 daughter prostitutes. So she got people coming to the house, our youngsters, and our elderly people in a good community come to the houses, use her daughters, okay, and get paid for it. That's how she's sustaining a habit. I got another case where we had to help a young girl. She's also from an Islamic school. Her father picks her up every day from school. and not take her home. Her father picks her up, she's 12 or 13 years old. Her father picks her up, take her to the dealer, Muslim guy, sits in his lounge, he gets one bag of cat, and he keeps her daughter, he takes her daughter to the room. For one bag of cat every day. Now how do you help a child in that situation when a father is doing what he's doing? So it's very important. We need to educate our children. We need to speak to our children. We need to be open-minded with our children. We need to tell them everything. We have to make them attend group sessions where there's situations like this. You know, we've set up so many groups, alhamdulillah. We set up groups in Lens. We open up another facility in Lens with the Jamaiyatul Ulama. Okay, it's linked with the Jamaiyatul Ulama and Crescent of Hope. We open up a facility for the underprivileged. It's currently, alhamdulillah, is running in Lens. We have a support group in Lens that we use opposite Radio Islam at the Islamic helpline. We started with 5 families. Currently up to 50 to 60 families come there every Tuesday night, non-stop. They come there for support. We got patients that are clean there from 5 to 17 years. Okay, I'm not saying everybody make it. Out of every 25 patients, 5 make it. Balance of them don't make it. They keep on relapsing. Understand? We got support groups in Rustenburg. We have support groups in Middelburg. We have support groups everywhere. We need to start support groups in Durban as well. Because why? Once we start these groups, even if we got 10 or 15 ulama involved, we need 2 ulama per session to facilitate. That means your turn will come maybe every 2 months. Just when you come, we have recovering addicts, we have parents. Wallahi, you will find cases that are molestation cases. You will find rape cases. You will find child abuse cases. You will find wife abuse cases. You will find all these cases. So it's the only time we're going to know what's happening in our community. If we don't set up a support group, we are sitting in our cocoons, we're comfortable, alhamdulillah. But we don't know what's happening outside. We don't know what's happening in our neighbor's home. We don't know these things, what is happening. So our main objective is to try to make the ulama understand, to say that can we set up some sort of groups anyway, even if we can just have one classroom. I remember in Lens, we started off with a small classroom, a school classroom. From there, one of the masjids called us to use their hall. From there, Land Med Clinic called us. They gave us the premises there. That became small. Now Islamic Helpline, it's part of Jamaiyatul Ulama there in Lens. They gave us their facility because they extended in the back so we can fit up to 50 to 60 families there. In Rustenburg, we started a group called MAD, M-A-D, Moms Against Drugs. In PE, we have a group called FED, Families Against Drugs. The youngest mother who started that group is 45 years old. The eldest woman in that group was 75 years old. You know, when they started that group, I remember I went there 2-3 times to PE we started this group. These mothers used to wear T-shirts with FED on top and walk around Saturdays in the town to make people understand the severity of the problem. Today, that same group is running between 4 nights. 1 night for recovering addicts, 1 night for addicts that come out from rehab, 1 night for the parents, and 1 night they're having confrontation sessions with the kids because they can't fit it in 1 night. There's so many people coming to their groups. We have to do something to help the community because wallahi, I'm telling you, our schools are going to get infested. Our schools are going to get full of drugs because it's so easy accessible. It's so easy to get. Because now, you know, I was in UK about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and most of the kids in UK are using balloons. Okay? You got our youngsters here, I mean, you got our glue boys here, they are stuffing glue the whole day. In London, they're using something called balloons. Okay? It's helium. So what they do is that initially they buy the canisters that were this size. Now they're buying like this oxygen tanks, this size. Okay? When I was there were 3 youngsters, they were driving, and they came in an accident, 2 died. I had Mufti Kawab who was here from Bartley. He came and visited me in Makhalisburg because he was in an ulama program in Bartley. He was there, he came and visited me in Makhalisburg last week. He was telling me in that area, every day after Isha, you'll find cars parked everywhere and boys and girls sitting inside and only smoking balloons, snuffing balloons. So what they do is that they take the helium, they blow it up into a balloon and they put a nozzle on the top and they just pull it. And what happens with helium is that once you take 1 pull of helium, your organs in your body freeze for 15 seconds. If you look at all the YouTube channels relating to helium, you'll see most of the people are paralyzed. They can't walk anymore because it makes your whole body numb. They are going for physio, they're going to rehabs. I'm talking about medical rehabs to give them the ability to walk because you can't even walk after that. Okay? We got a brother in a center who is paralyzed waist down. We got another brother, he was a crack user, he had 1 hit of crystal meth. 1 hit of crystal meth. He got off the car, he got a stroke on the left hand side. Till today, 3 years. He's walking like this. So this is the condition of what's happening with the drugs. I don't think anybody understands. Our problem in the community is that once we set up groups, people will open up more. Currently what's happening is that the Muslim community, they're shoving it under the carpet. So what they're doing is that, you know what, they say, no, my child is not bad. And the irony is that if you approach a parent and you tell a parent that behavior, why don't you do a test on your son or check something out, your child's behavior is not right, the parents start fighting. You know, you must make shukr to Allah, that at least somebody's coming to tell me, at least I can check it out and see what's happening. But those days are gone. It's not happening. Today you can tell anybody about the child, they want to hit you. But it's happening everywhere. So we're making a humble appeal, we're making a humble request, man, to all and everyone to help us with this process. Otherwise, wallahi, like I explained, we're only going to have drug addicts. A generation is going to be of drug addicts. Small children are drugging, man. I'm talking kids. I told you the youngest child was 6, man. The 7-year-old, you know, I still get visions of him, man. You know, he was using crystal, he was using Menrex. You know, Menrex, they have to crack a cold drink bottle, they crack it, man. You know, this youngster, I told this youngster, please, man, you need to show me. You know, I think Maulana Mufti Sahib, they came when Madrasa, they came and see the center. I have a shelf in the back with all the drugs inside. I still got that Menrex bottle that he broke, this youngster. He broke it with 8 matchsticks. He told me, uncle, he gave me the bottle, he put the bottle there on my desk. And he asked me for 8 matchsticks, and he took a tissue, and he went to wet the tissue, and he left it on the side. So what he did was he took 8 matchsticks, lit one, heat it, took another one, heat it, take another one, heat it, he was 8. After that he took the tissue, wet tissue, and he clicked it. A vase fell out. You could plant roses inside. A young 7-year-old boy, man, it's so well advanced of having the ability to break a glass bottle exact to smoke Menrex inside. So it's something we need to think about of what's happening, what's the current condition, okay? I have a brother here, alhamdulillah, I'm going to give him 5 or 10 minutes, he's from London. And he was by me 3 years ago. And I was in London 3-4 weeks ago. He told me I'm under pressure, I need to come back to South Africa. I don't know, I think he loves South African food. You know, so he came back to South Africa, he picked up about 6 or 8 kilos here in about a month. So alhamdulillah, maybe he can give us an explanation of current condition and what made him go. The same thing I've been discussing with relating to the condition of our children. He will explain to you what he lost in his life and what drove him to the other side, inshallah. Allah give us tawfiq.
My name is Mohammed Nafsa from UK, Leicester. I've been a drug addict for about 10 years of my life. What drove me to drugs was, initially when I was a youngster, what you guys would call lighty. Me, I was a normal kid, not praying, everything was on point in my life, but my parents, my mother was always working. Living price in the UK is very hard. So my mother was always working, my father was always working. So in that times, I never got my time. And the fact that I was unable to tell people because I was unaware that it's going to be a problem in my future, I kept it to myself. So far, there are now 10 years later down the line, it was going to cause me a bigger problem because now I got no guidance in life. The praying, my mother would say, okay, you know, chokra tu moto thek gaya, tu pote school ja, pote madrasa, whatever. I used to go halfway and I used to meet a friend, a non-Muslim or Muslim, whatever. At the time, anybody who comes in your path, you guide differently. Now I used to not go madrasa, now I stopped going to school and everything. And then I started finding comfort in other people because the comfort I needed for my family was unavailable because they were just trying to put a roof over my head, but they didn't realize they're losing their son. I can't blame them, but initially this is what happened. Today my parents love me off to bits, but they are unable to cooperate with me because they don't understand me. I'm trying to fight for myself. I'm trying to tell them I'm self-destructing on drugs because I'm not getting the love and support I need. And until I met Hafiz here, and you know that it cost me about 30 years of my life. Today I'm 35. I met him at the age of 33. And when I met him, the first time, nobody rang because they thought, send him in a rehab, like he said, put mince in, get a samosa comes out. No, it didn't work because when I went back home, I was alone. So nobody understood what was happening in my life. And then the second time I came, then they started considering me because I'd walk into the rehab at the weight of 58 and I'll leave at the weight of 70. So they go, oh, mashallah, Harati, he's done now. Leave him to it again. But it wasn't the case because deep down I was still half. I wasn't prepared for the streets because in the rehab I was doing all my namaz, salah. The main thing for me is I've got to stick to my deen. The moment I slip, the moment I lose one namaz, it carries on to another, to another, to another. We only have 5 namazes, but the fact that I couldn't even do that is a shame. Now, today, alhamdulillah, my father's coming on board now, but the thing is, I'm 35 and now I have a 5-year-old daughter, which now I'm losing time on. So for me, it's a big eye-opener now. I'm trying my best to call it to an end where I need to pull the word out to the people that what I couldn't get from my family, I can't even give to my family. It's a cycle of life. If you can't stop now, it's going to get worse and worse before it comes to a point where there's going to be zombies walking on the streets. I mean, I've come to the rehab this time. Alhamdulillah, in half state, I was unable to cooperate and understand what's happening. But when I got to the center, I got the biggest shock of my life because people from here, people from the UK, which I was warned about, they're there, they'll accompany you, whatever, for my comfort zone. They'll give you the right company when you get there. When I got, they were like zombies. They can't even talk. So it's like you're trying to talk to him and it's pointless talking because there's no answers. He doesn't even know who he is. And now when the families bring him and then they ask him, how's my son? What can he say? How did you send him here? Did you ever bother with him when he was outside? You didn't. So now you can't just expect everything to be okay. So, initially for us to understand that something is wrong for a reason. And for you to understand it's wrong, the only right thing to do is do something about it. By leaving it's not going to solve itself. Alhamdulillah, make dua inshallah. I've come to a point where, I need my daughter in my life because for what I never got, I want to give it to her. But, for all our Muslims to get together, we can educate each other. And the more we educate each other, we can pass the word around. Before you know it, the word is going on rather than the drugs going around. Inshallah.
Jazakumullahu khairah. I think if any of our ulama or those that are here have any questions, then we can engage directly now. The floor is now open with Hafiz up.
Yeah.
From all your experience, any apparent reason why the Muslim community who are on drugs are worse than the others?
Mullah, I think, if you look at it, the non-Muslims, especially the whites, once they're 18, they start moving on, living on their own. So they do things that half the time their parents don't pick up. Okay? Because why? Most of them, when they're 5, 6 years old, they forget their father. They don't know who the father is. The father leaves. But if you look at our Muslim children, even up to the time they get married, they still with their parents. But a lot of them have had issues when they were young. Like Muhammad says here, he had no mom and dad while growing up. They were there, but they weren't there. Okay? Both of them were working. There was no time. Even when they sent him first time to the rehab, there was absolutely 3 months, no communication. Then when he started realizing that he's fighting such a battle that he can't deal with himself and they can't deal with it. Now he's come to a stage that his father and his mother, his whole family is taking an active role and is helping in his recovery. Now, with the problem with our Muslim children is that they have accessibility to everything. They have accessibility to funds, they have accessibility to cars, they have accessibility to everything. So it's very easy for them to get what they want. And they do things. I mean, a typical example, man, Morana, I don't think the right place to say, but maybe I'll mention it, man. A father phoned me, I'm talking maybe about a year ago. I was in Durban. He told me he couldn't find his 2 daughters. Okay? But what we did, we spoke to some of my friends and they tried to use with the cell phone, how to find me and stuff like that, and we found them. And where did I find them? I found them in a hotel. Okay? I got a video on my phone. Okay, I videoed the whole thing. Finally, there were 2 young girls, both of them with no clothes on top. And there was 9 boys with them, and they were all snuffing cocaine. So I mean, you don't even know where your children are, man. So our children have come to a different level. They've gone to a different level. There's no control on them. Why? They got accessibility to funds, so there's no control. Understand? And they do some things that are unimaginable, man. You know, it's very difficult to say, but you know, some of them, so they do some things that are crazy, man. You know, you come to the center, I'll show you guys, man. Maulana, you know, this guy here will call his team that they drug every day. After Isha, they meet up by his house, in his garage, okay? Then if the wife is in the house showering, he will send his friends to walk inside the bathroom because they're so high. Understand? So imagine now the wife phones you, she's a alima, she's teaching in a madrasa, and she phones you and tell you these things. How do you help the youngster? He doesn't want to give up. He said, he's my wife. Understand? So this is what's happening in the community, Jay.
Participation from the ulama. Inshallah, you spoke about support groups. Just give us an idea of where do we start? For example, if ulama from this gathering, if we volunteer, would we be required to do counseling or just facilitate it?
We need to facilitate it. But very important, Maulana, is that first we need to find a premises. Okay, even if it's a classroom, even if it's here, I'm going to give you an example, yeah? But it's also our responsibility that especially on a Friday, it's the only time we get everybody in the masjid. Even if it means after the program, after the bayan, the last 5 minutes, we discuss this issue, that's what's happening in the community, what's happening to sister. You know, I remember a couple of years back, we had to put up a whole bayan. It was a 5-page thing. I still got it with the Jamaitul Ulama, where they allowed everybody to use in all the masjid for a certain time period. Okay, so if we can just mention it in the Jummah bayans, maybe in the last 2-3 minutes of the program, what's current condition of our youth, and mention that we're starting support groups. Okay, maybe start off with one support group. I don't mind coming here again, we can help facilitate, and I come with all the literature that we require, or all the paraphernalia, what is used, or what type of drugs, what parents should know about substance abuse, what are the statistics of substance abuse. I can bring that all the information. You know, we had ulama that came now from Mauritius, about 5 or 6 ulama, they want to open up a facility there. I was in London, they want to open up a facility there. You know, we got people from Maputo, they want to open up a facility there. So a lot of ulama are getting involved in this situation. We got Maulana Behmad also, I don't know if he was also from Madrasa Zakaria. He came to the center a couple of times for you know, what the madrasas are doing now is that they're sending about 30 students in the first 6 months and 30 students in the second 6 months. That means ulama that are 6th and 7th year students. They come there and they're getting themselves educated. Now it's so nice to see and hear that, you know, these ulama are now in Canada, they're in Panama, they're in different places. And they will phone you and ask you now, like, you know what, I'm going to approach this case, what do I do? How do I approach this case? Whatever this case, we're starting the small group here, how do we go about it? So I think it's, we are local here. For me to come here, I can come at any given time. We can educate, I can even come with one of our counselors, and we can run a 2-3 day workshop of how to facilitate a whole support group. Wallahi, I tell you, it will come to a stage that the ulama will wait to go to that program. Why? To see that, you know, you'll feel so good when a mother or somebody phone you and tell you that, alhamdulillah, you know, things are changing at home, my husband is less abusive, the husband is less violent, and things like that, you know. And also very important is that we need to get our youth affiliated to the masjid. We have to get them affiliated to the masjid. That is why 80% from around the world, I mean, I got patients from Turkey, patients from Palestine, patients from London, patients from America, patients coming from everywhere around the world. They're coming. Why? They're coming because of the Islamic perspective. I had one guy, Ahmad came from Washington, D.C. As is, you know, Allah has made it such that as he was walking out of the masjid, the father spoke to someone that, you know what, man, I'm looking for an Islamic facility for my son because he's on tablets. So the other gentleman that tells this guy's father, you know, I heard of a place called Magalisburg. And that's how he came there to Magalisburg. Understand? So our program is such, you know, our programs run on the whole Islamic ethos. That means even our 12-step program, you know, the 12-step program normally works the higher power. So a person can choose a higher power as a tree or as anything. Understand? So I mean, we have our Allah. Okay, so we have changed our 12-step program. We're using the same dialogue, but we're using the Islamic on the Islamic perspective. Understand? So we run a 12-step program. on the Islamic house. That means the patients, when they come there, initially they get up for Fajr. After Fajr we read Yasin. After Yasin we read all the wazifas, and then they sit for Ishraq. After Ishraq they go in rest. They go in rest for 1 hour. At 7:30 they get woken up. At 8:30 the supervisor will do a room check. At 8 o'clock, and 8:30 is breakfast. 9 o'clock your first class starts. They have 4 classes. You know, that 45 minutes, 50-minute break, 45 minutes. I mean, the last one is for 11 to quarter to 12. 12 to quarter to 1, every day we have an Islamic program. We have a fiqh class where we teach the guys Sunnat al-Fara'id, wuzu, ghusl, salah, practical wuzu, and all the Muslim du'as. A lot of them we have to teach them the surahs because they even forgot Surah Fatiha. So what we teach them at least Alam Tara down. Okay? So we do that every day. Then is Zohar. After Zohar they read Dua Jamila and they have Kitabri and Dua Jamila. After they finish that, they rest till, they are free till Asr. After Asr, nobody leave the masjid. We read 1,500 duruds. They make zikr. After they make zikr, we read today Surah Tabarak, Shija and Waqia. Normally it's supposed to be read after Maghrib. But why we read after Asr? Because if we read after Maghrib, you got 60 patients. So if you read it after Maghrib, the time they go and eat, and it's time for Isha. And then you got all the cleaners who cannot clean up. So what we do, just to create that enthusiasm and the desire, we have it after Asr. So they read Tabarak, Shija, Waqia. The last 20 minutes before Maghrib, 15 minutes every day they play a bayan, either by Mufti Mang, Maulana Sunan Mullah, Maulana Khatani, Maulana Rizwan Kaji, 15-minute bayan. And the last 5 minutes they make dua. After Maghrib, that means there is Maghrib, then they go for Maghrib namaz. They free till Isha. After Isha we have kitab reading, and I give a talk every day. And I read from the kitab and I give a talk every day for half an hour. Then they have lights out till about 9:30. 9:30 is lights out, everybody goes and sleep. And they're up again Fajr time. There's no compromise on reading Salam. I have so many patients that have come there because the parents put them into into non-Islamic facilities. When they come there, they come with Bibles. They come with Bibles. They say, I'm not a Muslim. Understand? So what they do is they come with the Bible. So I say, no problem. No, I'm Muslim, no problem. Read your Bible in the mosque, no problem. Sit in the back and do what you want. Walk with your Bible, because you refuse to let it go. Okay? Sit in the back and read your Bible. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after you see me the first serve. After you see me the first serve. My colleague will tell you here, we had 3 brothers who came in. 3 brothers who came in last week. They came to Bakharisburg 4 o'clock in the morning. They came from another facility. So I asked them, why did you guys run away and come here? They're like, Uncle Rafiq, it's a Christian facility. In the morning they're giving us ham sandwiches. In the morning they're giving us ham sandwiches. In the afternoon, at night we're eating pork. And if you do one mistake, they tell you chapter 16, number 17, you must write it 50 times. That's what we're doing the whole day. We go to church about 5 times a day. 5, 6 times a day we're in a church. So we don't want to be there. So I found one guy's family. What did the family tell me? I think I was taken back. He's taking drugs is haram. Say if it's haram, is all right. Exact words. And all 3 of them are still by me. They refuse to leave. Their parents came and fetched them because their parents said they need a very, very hard place. Where you dig and you clean and you make trenches and stuff like that, We want them to go there, man. They must suffer a little bit because how they're making us suffer. But the youngsters refuse to leave. So we have to get letters and give letters because a lot of them are referred to the facility, to the court. And if you want them to come to your facility or to Islamic facility, you can apply to the court, they'll send them to Islamic. A lot of guys come to the court to us, though they were diverted to somebody else. So it's very important. A lot of our youngsters are going to these facilities and then they're becoming murtad, they're following the other aspect. So it's becoming very, very dangerous now where they go to, what they do, who they're affiliated, which facility you go to. And a lot of times you go to Christian facilities, they are making them, lifting their positions in the facility, giving them higher ranks in the facility, and then from there they're giving them, it's your duty now to take these 10 boys, they're yours, you take them to church every morning, make sure they're in church, So it's very important to see that a child goes to the right facility as well, especially Islamic facility. I mean, every facility is trying their hardest, trying their utmost best, but as long as they go to a Muslim and Islamic facility, man. Inshallah. Any other questions, inshallah?
Things to look for in students, young people that will indicate that this person may have a drug.
The telltale signs, change of behavior. Change of behavior. Because why? I think I explained that when a person comes to a rehab, you're dealing with 2 addictions. One is his drug addiction and one is character defects. Because of the addiction, the character defects kicked in, the lying, the conning, the manipulation, all those things kicked in because of the drug addiction. So you have to work with both. So the first person who would pick up, I think Allah has given mothers intuition, man. They're the first people who pick it up. His eating pattern change, his sleeping pattern change, his dressing change. He takes long time in a toilet. He doesn't look at you in the eye. He doesn't sit in a crowd. He isolates himself. Very easy to pick it up. You'll pick it up immediately.
You spoke about underlying issues. 95% is the underlying issues.
Correct.
Of the drug. What's the underlying?
Underlying issues, you got physical, psychological abuse. Okay, either they seen physical, psychological abuse between parents. Either you see that either the child was physically or psychologically abused. Okay, they have all this. Either a child was bullied in school. That is why it's very important. On a daily basis we have supper with our kids. They do a little bit of talim, and after they eat, at least ask the child, how was your day, man? Because if we don't, the child will carry it forth. I give you one example, man. I had a patient. We tried everything in the book to understand. I got 2 social workers and a full-time psychologist on site. We could not find the root of the problem. So I had to send him for EMDR. EMDR is eye movement and desensitization of the brain. They unpack your brain. They put 2 irons in your brain, on your hands, and they plug it in the machine, and they see where the imbalance of the brain is. Okay, and after that they do hypnotherapy. What they do is they try to get everything out of your subconscious back into the conscious and see if you can deal with the situation. Or sometimes they do hypnotherapy where they take you back into the situation of what happened in your life, and then they make you work with that situation. So this youngster, he went for Umrah when he was 5 years old with his parents. He was raped by an Arab. We couldn't find it. Okay, but EMDR took it out. Understand? So he carried that for 40 years. Understand? So he never stopped drugging. Once that came out of him, today he's a family man, you'll never say he's an addict. Understand? So these underlying issues we have to deal with, especially this bullying in school, molestation, child abuse. They see parents fighting all the time. All these things are very important for us to pick it up. Otherwise, a child will carry it through. I'll give you an example. I had a patient, his father was by me in 2001. 2001. He was a crack addict, Last year he sent his son to me. And I tell most of the patients I got there now, their fathers were by me. So I told their fathers those years that if you don't stop, Allah will show you action replay. He'll send your son. Because exactly what you did to your family, your son will do to you. Or your grandson will do it to you. So this guy came to me, and his father phoned me. He said, Rafiq bhai, please man, speak to my son. He's seen what I did to the family. His father is clean now. He's seen what I did to the family. Why did he go into drugs? So I asked the boy. I told him, what, your father asked me this question. Please, he wants a response, man. What can I tell him? He said, Uncle Rafiq, do me a favor. Tell my father when he comes here, when he's sitting in a confrontation session, I'll tell you in front of him. So his father came there. We have visits every second weekend. So his father came there. So I told him, tell your father. You know what he told his father? He reckoned, Dad, the reason I'm taking drugs is to show you how you made me and mom suffer for 25 years. And I'm not going to stop. You brought me to rehab, no problem. At least I'm getting my namaz up. When I come back, I'm going to drug. I want you to suffer. Understand? So very important. Children don't forget. They say a child between the age of 5 and 7 forget nothing for the rest of their lives. I know children that are in Makhalizbag now, they will tell you, man, when my parents used to fight, man, we used to hide under the bed, man. We used to hide under the bed, man. And my father lose a temper, how he used to hit us, man, with belts and all this stuff. So children, they remember all these things. Very important, man, Just to finish up, to give us a better understanding, I think I mentioned it yesterday in the masjid, man, I had a patient who got caught with drugs. They gave him 3 years suspended. It was his first offense. They gave him 3 years suspended sentence. And after a certain time period, they caught him with one rock. Now, because they caught you for the same offense, you pull the 3 years of your suspension. So he went there and he kept on writing me letters to say that can he come and do his parole in Makhalizbag. So I said, Kenya, away now. Bichara is in prison. Rather, let me respond and let's get him to Makhalizbag. He came to Makhalizbag. After 1 year being in Makhalizbag, he's supposed to pull 18 months. After 1 year, he came to me, tell me, Rafiq, I got a 13-year-old daughter, but the last time I seen her when she was 7. I say, so who does she live with? He said, live with my mother. And please, if you could do something where we can start having a relationship, or we can start communicating. I said, no problem. The next time your mother come, tell her to bring your daughter with. So they brought her. She came into the office. I got a couch in the front and she sat there. And I tell her, Ben, I talked about your father. She put her hand up. I say, I said, what's wrong? She said, uncle, you can't tell me anything about my father. I said, why? She reckon I was born in a crack home. My mother met my father while they were drugging. That's how I was born. Okay? You come into my house, in our house at that time, my granny bought beds. They bought cutlery. You won't find one bed in our house. We sleep on cardboard boxes. Each and item, cutlery, groceries, my granny buy, my mother and father sell it. When I was 5, my mother used to walk in the streets, go to the neighbors and borrow money. I used to go and pull my mother to come back home at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So there's nothing you can tell me about my father. They used to beat it up to a pulpit. I used to hide in one corner, around the corner from the fireplace, to see that they mustn't beat me also up. I was a small child, man. I was 5, 6 years old. So I asked her, I was stunned, I was shocked, a small 13-year-old girl telling me this. So I asked her, what do you want from your father? She told me, I want a hug. I never got a hug for 13 years. So I called her father inside. I told her, stand up, I said, hug your father. She hugged her father for 20 minutes. Understand? So sometimes we need to understand what our children need. And when last we hug our children? Because we're too busy, occupied in everything else. A lot of time I ask the father, one father tells me, alhamdulillah, my son, I got him off the drugs. My son used to love rave clubs, But at least I thought, I got drop him off myself and I pick him up. So alhamdulillah, But I stopped that also now. But from now, I'm not going to allow my son to go to rave clubs. I'll let him go to house parties. So I told him, uncle, you know what? I think you need rehab, not your son. I think I need to book you in. But there's something wrong with you. Understand? So our Muslim parents, some of them think like that also. We got parents that buy the drug for their children for safety reasons. Why is it rather he drug in the house than him going outside and borrowing money from the whole community, from the whole ummah, that tomorrow morning we have to start paying. So rather he drug in the house. Because these children have nowhere to go. They have no group that they can go to. There's nowhere they can talk to, nobody to understand them. And let me tell you, once they come to the center and once they clean, they're the most wonderful kids you can get. You can't find better people than them. Khidmat they can make is ajib. It's unreal. And if I must walk from my house to the office, 10 guys will run. One will carry my bag, one will carry if I got a lunch box or something, they'll do all of it. They'll never talk back. There's no disrespect, there's no fighting, there's no swearing, nothing. To the first couple of days till they're sobering up. They're the most wonderful people you can get. We just need to understand them. And give them a little bit of targheeb, give them a little bit of understanding. Let them affiliate themselves with the masjid. Let them come to the masjid. Take them out for 3 days. Let them do these things. Take them out for gush. Do these things. You get a lot of patients come to us and alhamdulillah, they came to my house. I took a walk with them. Alhamdulillah. So slowly, they will get into the program, inshallah.
Mashallah, with your level of experience and expertise, how would you deal with a crack addict who's in denial?
You know what, crack addiction is a 50-50 chance you got. Okay? A crack addict, the only time, crack is the only drug that once you sleep, and if you wake up, there's no withdrawals. There's no withdrawals from crack. Understand? But once a person haven't slept for 3 days, a person who hasn't eaten for 3 days, give him one hit, he will not eat for another 3 days, he will not sleep for another 3 days. But when he'll sleep for 2-3 days in a row. Understand? Now, when he's in usage, it's very, very difficult to tell a person you need help. But so what a lot of parents do now is that they get some elders to get hold of them, take them to a facility, they might scream, they might swear, they might become aggressive for a day or two, but after that when they sit back, they'll tell you, Ya Allah, this is the best thing that happened to me. But initially when in usage, no chance you got, not with a crack user. They have to take the initiative. If it means you get 2-3 elderly people from the family to get hold of him, go put him into a facility, once he's sober up, he'll think rationally. Once he's on drugs, there's no thinking ability. Otherwise, there's no chance. Crack is a 50-50 scenario. Very, very. We got guys relapsing from crack cocaine after 9 years. Some guys, 7 to 9 years, they're relapsing. Because an addict, if he can't deal with his issues, his concerns, his grievances, the first place he finds solace is in the drug. There's no other place you're going to find solace. It's very important. I tell the parents, man, don't say that he doesn't want to listen. He's distorted, man. How can he listen? Grab hold of him, go put him into a facility. Once he's sober and you talk to him, you see the difference. You see the difference. Inshallah.
Addictions that are non-substance related.
Gee.
Social media, pornography, all of these things which are non-substance related.
Very big. Absolutely very big. If you look at, you get a lot of guys coming in for gambling addiction, for porn addiction, for sexual addiction. You get guys coming in for those type of addictions. Porn has become very, very, very big. Because why? Any person who uses a stimulant, for him to get the stimulation of the high, you need a woman next to you. Even if there's no functionability, you need a woman next to you. Anybody. Okay? Nobody can tell me they're using stimulants and there's no woman around them. Okay? So it goes with that. It comes to a stage now is that when a person has one hit of crystal or one hit of crack, the first thing they open a laptop when they're on their phones and looking at porn. Understand? So porn has become a major situation. A lot of the marriage breakups now is because of the porn. It's because of the porn. And a lot of these guys don't understand it. They go into all these, all these houses, all these prostitutes and stuff like that. What they're doing is that they're bringing that home and they're affecting their own wives. Yes, I had a case where a guy who's a freak with the houses, and his wife phoned me to tell me that she's going into labor, but they cannot do a Caesar. They cannot do a normal birth. They have to do a Caesar because when they picked up that she has AIDS. Understand? So they have to do, because once you do a Caesar, you got a bit of a chance of the child not picking up HIV. Understand? So these guys are giving it to them. Because why? That's how it goes with the drug. Social media, you forget who you are. You forget who you are. You go anywhere. You go to the airport also, man. Nobody's looking up. Everybody's inside. Anywhere you go now. Even in the UK, you go to any mall in the UK, even in South Africa, anywhere you go, what's everybody doing? On a cell phone. They walk out of the masjid after Jummah and everybody has their phones out, taking it off silent. It's not something you can't stop. Okay, but
the shortage of rehabs, facilities and support groups, not everything. Also parents that are shameful to put their children in institutes because they become a public. And in general, so many children to the number of what is available. The basics that parents can start when they know, okay, my child is affected in the home, without sending them to a facility or joining support groups. What can you advise them?
see, Asia, I think it's very good if they see a counselor to guide the family of how to deal with it. They say 95% patients relapse is because of family. They say, there's a saying that drug addiction is a kind of illness which if the family members get help, the drug addict get well. Okay? The most important part is the family. When a person comes out from a rehab, there are 3 cycles, craving cycles. Your first one is 10 to 14 days. Your second one is 30 to 35. Your third one is 85 to 90. So this is your reintegration period. If you don't pass these 3 cycles, you relapse within the first 2 to 5 weeks. Even if you stay in the rehab for 1 year. If you don't pass these 3 cycles, because why? It's like, when a person goes for a holiday or a person goes for Umrah, when he comes back, what he talks about the first 10 days? Who I met, who I ate with, when I went to make salam, or when Makkah, what times I went to make tawaf. But after that, if you're an addict, same house, same wife, same bathroom where I used to drug, same roads, same streets, same friends who are high, same merchants I see, the first craving will kick in. I know parents take their children, they put them in a cold shower at that time. So if you don't pass those 3 cycles, even if you stay 5 years in a rehab, you relapse within the first 2 to 5 weeks. Understand? You have to get a counselor, somebody to talk to them. But the difference between going to a facility, a lot of people think a facility is a prison, not a prison, man. What I'm saying is that for a person to understand his addiction, that means if a person comes in a facility and he gets a craving, the psychological state will tell him that why must I fight it? Because why? I'm in a place of a safe environment, I can't get it. So I need to learn how to deal with it. If he's on the outside and if he gets a craving, the brain will tell him, why must I fight it when the accessibility is there? Understand? So he'll get it. You can lock him up, he will get it. Somehow or the other he will get it. So he has to speak to someone. The only way you can solve this problem with him is have the ability to talk to someone. And I said, no, I went to one madaris, man. Small children, man, talking about class 1 and class 2, man. They know the name of designer drugs. They gave me street names. So I asked Malana, Malana, how do they know the street names, man? So I called this one girl. I said, you're giving me street names of drugs, man. How do you know that? She said, like, my father is a drug addict. He hit my mother every day if she don't give him money. Understand? That's the situation we have, man. Yeah. Any other questions, inshallah?
It's commonly known that less than 1% or so is the success rate at rehabilitation centers. Some people view this as a negative thing in terms of sending some family member or some patient to the rehab. Even though the number is very low, how should we, approach this type of statistic?
Yeah, Maulana, I've told this to a lot of parents. A lot of people think that a drug rehab is a fix, it's a shortcut. If there was a shortcut to recovery, our Michael Jacksons, Whitney Houstons, Prince, Brenda Fassie, they wouldn't have died. You could have got one injection and they're okay. There's no shortcut to recovery. When they come to a rehab, we educate them on the drug. We educate them about what the consequences, repercussions are relating to the drug. Okay, we try to solve the underlying issues. Okay, and make them understand how the drug works. It's like, I ask the parent, you got a child? She tells me yes. I say, how old is your child? He said 8 years old. I say, your child go to school? She say yes. I reckon, can you ask the teacher if you're going to pass? You can't. Understand? You can't ask the teacher. You can send him to the best school like Crawford. Can you ask the teacher, is my child going to pass? Can't, man. Whatever you learn from January to December, you implement in the exam, you pass. Similarly, you come to a rehab. Whatever you learn and you implement, you can't, man. If you come out now, you go to the same friends, you associate with the same people, you go to the same places, obviously you're going to relapse. So a rehab, a lot of people think it's a cure. It's not the cure. Because why? When a person comes to a rehabilitation, to drug rehab, he's not the only one rehabilitating. His parents are also rehabilitating because they've been going through trauma for 10, 15 years. So it's giving them time to put their lives together and understand what has happened. They're paying the debts, they're paying the dealers, they're paying the merchants, they're doing all those things. You got this guy coming into a rehab now trying to sort his life out. So everybody is rehabilitating. So all we're doing in the rehab is like a school. We're educating the family. We're working with the underlying issues. We're sorting the issues out, and from there they have to live their lives. You can't live your whole life in a rehab. It's not a factory. But I think parents got a misconception about a rehab. I said, there's no cure. We had Professor Siddharth from UNISA. He sent us about 4 psychologists to come and do an assessment on Mahalisburg. When they did an assessment, they did follow-ups on patients. Out of every 25 patients to 30 patients come in, maximum 3 to 5 make it. That's all. The parents don't make it. Parents don't collect. They become worse. Because why? It becomes such that if a guy is using 2 bags, smoking 2 joints, or smoking 2 buttons a day, okay? Initially when you start, it's like a guy who starts cigarettes, He take from his friend 1, 2 pulls, he'll cough. Then the next day he take 3, 4 pulls, he'll cough. He come to a stage he can smoke a cigarette himself. Understand? So similarly with the drug. Initially a guy will play with the drug. He'll mess around with the drug. But it comes to a stage that, like they say, once the human brain becomes accustomed to something, it creates pathways to accommodate more. So if a person relapses and he was using 222, the day he relapses, he starts from 222 and excels to 4. So a lot of times parents will phone me and say, Rafiq bhai, I sent my son to rehab, he became worse. Nowadays I tell the parents that if he relapses, he'll become 2 to 3 times worse than what he was. Because now his tolerance level is gone up. Because now he starts from where he stopped. So if he stopped at 2 bags, he starts from 2, increase to 4. And a lot of them come in, they come in like skeleton. I'm just showing you. He's showing me. This guy came in here like a scarecrow. Look at him now. He picked up 6 to 8 kilos in 1 month. He's costing us a lot in Makhalis.
The professors who came in the groups that fared well, who recovered,
Ji.
you said it's about 3 to 5%.
Ji.
Are there any commonalities between
What do you mean commonalities, Mullah?
what do they have in common?
The support structure was very good. Support structure was very, very good. Okay? If the family, if they don't have a support structure, they will not make it. If the family don't support them through the process when they come out, they will not make it. But the irony is with us Muslim community is that when a person comes out, our community will say, you know what, he's a drug addict, wo kharab che, send him to rehab, let's sort him out, let's do something. He's troubling his family, he's hitting his family, he's stealing everything, he's making debts, his family are pensioners, they do all those things. They send him to a rehab. When he comes out of a rehab, what happens, Maulana? When he comes out from a rehab, will somebody give him a job? No. He's a drug addict. He chor hai. So how does that Eddie come right in life? Even if he wants to come right. Understand? You know, one of my patients, I got patients in London that are clean up to 7 to 8 years. When I went to visit them now, though we put a support structure together for 3 months, their parents carried forward that structure for 1 year. I'm talking about more than people that got big buildings they built. They own hotels. When I stayed in one of their hotels as well. Understand? And look at him. He reckoned my 1 year, I had no money, no car, no cell phone. Wherever I go, my wife drives. If you have to pay, my wife pays. I can never use the car and go on my own anywhere. Why? There was a whole structure put together for me. Because by sometimes you go take the car, you go with a good intention somewhere, to a cafe or somewhere, and you meet up with the wrong friend there. He might give you something, you'll collapse. And at that time when they come out the first 3 months, they're very fragile. You just put it in front of them, even being 6 months in a day, they'll lose. They need that 3-month reintegration period back into society to live as a normal human being. See, it's a whole process. I've got a lot of literature, inshallah. So one day if we decide to set some sort of groups up here, I don't mind coming down and giving all the literature that is required. I'll even bayans that the Jama'at al-Ulama put together. I can bring all the literature of the paraphernalia, what we must look out for, what parents should know, how can we help our addict if an addict approaches us. There's a lot of information that we can have, you can put together, inshallah.
Can you give us a more detailed explanation of the effects of benzodiazepines and benzos and stuff like that?
Okay, benzos, before they were using, benzo is a sleeping tablet. Before they were using, most of the youngsters were using 542s. Now they're using, a lot of them are using Xanax. But most of the patients that are coming now, they're using alprazolam. Alprazolam, because it's a very cheap drug, because now you can't get my wife is a pharmacist, in the pharmacies also they don't keep 542s, okay? So what they're using is that they even stop the Valiums, the Rivotrol, so all of them, what they're using is called now alprazolam, okay? It's very cheap, 60, 70 bucks, you get 100 in a tub, or you get tubs that come with 60. Very, very dangerous. People, we got guys coming there, while they're walking, they're falling and getting seizures. It's because of the alprazolam. But the only difference with the benzodiazepine is that, you know, if you catch a flight and you throw one in your mouth, you can sleep for 6-7 hours. But once your tolerance level go above 5, it no more makes you sleep. It makes you high. That means your body needs it to function after that. If your body don't get it, you can't function. So that's the only drug that takes the adverse effect. Initially makes you sleep. Once your tolerance level go above 5 or 6, your body needs it to function. Because why? You won't be able to sleep now. Even so, even if you take 6, you won't sleep. Because why? You're fighting it. So when you're fighting it, you get absolutely very, very high. So it means you get an introvert who becomes an extrovert. A person who can't talk to anyone, he isolates himself, give him a couple of alprazolam, he'll talk like hell. You have to tell him to keep quiet. He won't stop talking. So it takes an adverse effect. Very, very dangerous. I mean, most of our youngsters are using it, man. We had one school came there, Islamic school that came there. I mean, 80 students, man, 60 were fast asleep, man. They were all popped, man. I went to the school one day, to one school, also in Islamic school, the principal tells me, you know, alhamdulillah, we got everything under control. I say, shukr, man. I think they will say, why did you call me then? You know, but alhamdulillah, everything is under control. As I was going inside to the JK, to the Jamaat Khana, I passed about 7 guys. Uncle Rafiq, please don't tell him I was here. Don't tell him I was in Makhalisburg. Don't tell him I was in Makhalisburg. So half of them might be in Makhalisburg. The parents lied to them and said they either not well, they want 3 people. What we do as school kids is we try to rush it within a 21-day period. So what we do is that we do the nice and detox. It's an ultraviolet sauna detox. We bought these special saunas. So whatever is in your system is out within a 4-day period. They use niacin, thiamine, active charcoal, calmec, all those things. Okay, so they flush your system within a 4-day period. So a lot of school kids come in. We try to flush them within a 4 so they can go back to school. But the schools are becoming so cooperative that even if they have a problem and a child approaches the school, they won't expel you. They'll tell you go and get the help and come back. Because even in a company now, legally, they can't fire you. If you have a drug problem, they have to send you to a wellness center to sort your life out. They can't just fire you legally as well. So a lot of kids come in for those type of drugs as well, yeah.
Say Jazakumullah khairah to Hafiz up for that enlightening information. There's definitely a need for these type of groups and discussions, and as Hafiz highlighted, support groups in our community. So we hope inshallah to collaborate with our ulama in the future on these type of programs, these type of workshops inshallah, so that we become a means of positive change for the community inshallah. Jazakumullah khairah. We'll just perform our Isha Salah in the next 5 minutes, inshallah. The wudu khana is on your right, and then we'll commence with the Salah, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairah. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.